Good. Right. So my guest today is Clifton Flack of Cytec. And Clifton, you work in the world of medical cannabis. Is that right?
Medical cannabis, CBD, yes, these are kind of two merging worlds. Yeah, that's where we work.
So how are you involved, and what does Cytec get up to?
Interesting question. Thank you. So we are specifically in the CBD side of the medical cannabis world. I guess the key difference is we sell CBD, or we market CBD as a food supplement, which means very much the same way that you'd market vitamin C and echinacea, with no medical claims, and it's a free consumer choice. Customers can choose what to buy, how often to buy it, and how to use it.
Okay,
medical cannabis. Sorry,
go ahead. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, medical cannabis tends to be prescribed by a doctor, where there's less consumer choice, and there's also the THC element where there's that risk of psychoactive effects. So that's
all right.
not
So we're talking about different chemical substances, are we? In like CBD and medical cannabis.
We're talking about it. They both derive from the same plant. One is psychoactive, one is not. I guess is the core difference.
Yeah. Okay.
One might be scarier to use for some people because of the psychoactive, but CBD is non-psychoactive, perfectly safe to use, won't get you high, and it's a nice food supplement.
All right. So, well, we are living in troubled times, and lots of people do feel sort of concerned or anxious. And some of your products, or CBD products, can help with anxiety. Is that right?
So there has been lots of research that's been done and still ongoing around the world of CBD as a potential anti-anxiety. And that can say over 30% of our customers report anxiety problems, or insomnia, or anxiety-induced insomnia. These kind of health concerns, and this is what they report, and they report to us that the CBD helps support those problems, helps remedy those problems.
Right. So does anyone know kind of how it works? What is actually happening? People take it, feel less anxious.
Sure. There's two sides. There's the fact that CBD is an anti-inflammatory, and depending on the root cause of any kind of anxiety or mental health issue, there can be inflammation issues. But also it's an anti-anxiolytic, which is anti-anxiety. There's still lots of research to be done. Yeah. As I say, this is not it's not marketed as a medicine. So there's research to be done. Much of what we know and much of how we market it is based on the anecdotal evidence and the knowledge that's in the marketplace. Unfortunately, CBD being a safe product that you cannot overdose, there's no evidence of any kind of risk of overdose. There's the biggest risk of CBD is spending too much money and it not working. That's, I guess, the single biggest risk for consumers.
Yeah, well, I mean, that can be quite a risk. So, I mean, I've heard anecdotally of people using CBD products to reduce anxiety, and them saying it works. So that's essentially what you're saying. The proof at the moment is somewhat anecdotal, although there's loads of research going on. You can't actually point to a peer-reviewed published paper saying this helps for anxiety.
Correct. Lots of anecdotal evidence, lots of very, very clever people in universities and hospitals that have done research or done the complementary studies, and they believe it. And I would say I guess the most important evidence that I can bring to the table is customers and repeat business. As I say, over 30% of our customers are our customers because they have some of these mental health or anxiety problems, and they've been our customers for up to 4 years, some of them. And so the fact that this is not something that's prescribed, this is very much customers choose. They can buy or not buy. They can buy a small amount or large amounts. So if it didn't work, they'd stop buying. I think that's pretty.
Spend your money on something else. Absolutely.
Well, exactly.
I do know that some sports people use it. In fact, a little while ago, I interviewed George Cruz. Now he's a rugby player for England, and he's used it. And in fact, he started a company selling it. I think it's called 4-5 CBD. Did I get the name of the company right? I'm not sure. It might be 3-4. I don't know. I can't remember.
something like that.
Yeah,
Something like that.
apologies,
Yeah,
George, if I got the name of your company wrong. But anyway, the fact is, he swears by it for playing rugby, and I think the reason he took it is because it sort of helped him recover. Because playing rugby, you get kind of pretty mashed around, especially if you're playing for England at a very high level. And I think talking to him, he found that it helped him recover such that he can get out and go through the whole process again. Why you would want to do that to yourself is beyond me. But anyway, that's so.
I think that you raised an interesting point, and actually, funnily enough, we work with Ben Franks, who is an ex-New Zealand All Black, World Cup winner, and he came to us. He actually called me up about 3 years ago, and he'd been using CBD for about a year, and was doing some research and discovered Provocan, which is our new, it was then our new brand, and was amazed by the product and the research that we've been doing as a company behind that. What blew me away, the conversation with him, was this big rugby player, was I was expecting him to tell me he's using it for pain or for recovery or something, but he's using it for sleep. And subsequently, he introduced me to James Haskell, also ex-England rugby captain. And he also told me he's been using CBD for sleep, which kind of was a bit weird for me. But as I understood it, similar to what you said, these guys, professional rugby players, they get beaten up every single day, whether it be in a game, on a training pitch, they get beaten up every single day. And when you're in pain, when you're bruised, it's difficult to sleep. Now, they believed they were not taking CBD for that pain, they were taking it for the sleep. And it did help, it does help sleep. But then, as I said before, arguably, because CBD is a known anti-inflammatory, it could very well be that the reason it's helping their sleep is actually helping with the pain, or the root cause of the pain, which is their bruised a lot. But again, like I said before, there is a lack of clinical data on all of these issues. We do rely on anecdotal evidence, but that's that's very similar to the whole food supplement market. Everything from vitamin C to echinacea and ginseng, there's a severe lack of clinical data. There's lots and lots of anecdotal evidence, and that's what the market relies upon, and that's what we rely upon.
Well, in the supplement industry, there is some data that it's known that actually taking too much of some particular vitamins is not a good plan. But you said it's impossible to overdose on CBD oil. Is that anecdotal or is that proven?
There is. Well, I mean, I think you or any of your listeners could do the fact checking. There's not been a single death reported in the world ever where the cause is cannabis or any cannabis derivative products.
Right. Okay.
What I will say on the flip side, because there are side effects. There's side effects with everything in the world, especially when you're using something new. There's a study that was done in the UK by a company called GW Pharma, a big pharmaceutical company, and they have been involved in a clinical study for the best part of 10 years to look at CBD for epilepsy in children, actually. And one of the side effects that they discovered is that in very, very high dosing, very, very high dose, CBD can suppress the appetite. And that I found very interesting. I'm not sure what the other repercussions around that might be, but again, lots of research to be done, but we might find in the future, we might find people using CBD for weight management. I think that in itself would be an amazing discovery.
Yeah, okay. I was going to ask you a bit more about some other things that people use CBD for. I looked on your website and there's a mention of asthma. Have people used it to help with asthma? How? Any thoughts there?
Well, I'm glad you found that. So we funded that study at the Hebrew University in Jerusalem about 3 years ago, and we invested in the study with Professor Meshulam, who's actually one of these world-renowned cannabis scientists, and we were looking at can CBD help with asthma and COPD, other respiratory illnesses, because again, CBD being anti-inflammatory. And I know personally, I suffer from asthma myself, and asthma is inflammation of the airways in large parts. So we got some amazing results with that. And simple answer is yes, it can do. But like many things, it comes down to what's the correct dose and what's the correct delivery mechanism.
Right.
Because in this instance, with asthma, the ideal would be to inhale, because you need to get it into those lungs, into those respiratory tracts. So inhaling CBD would be ideal if you're looking to try and treat asthma. But obviously you've got the flip side, that the worst thing you want to do when you've got any kind of asthma is to start inhaling or smoking anything. So there's work to be done. There's very exciting potential there.
Right. Something that you've mentioned a couple of times, anti-inflammatory. Now, I know that's really because there's lots of anti-inflammatory drugs, so they must be useful for lots of things. And in fact, I often hear it in relation to arthritis. So could potentially be CBD oil or CBD products be useful for arthritis? And also, when you talk about anti-inflammatory, what does that actually mean? And does it mean, because you've got to make the right thing smaller, haven't you? I would have thought so, as it were.
So yeah, you're right. It comes down to in most cases, delivery mechanism. And again, I always use the example of the comparison, right or wrong, of Nurofen, because Nurofen is the anti-inflammatory, it's ibuprofen.
Yeah.
I remember when Nurofen hit the market, I think the early 80s, and Nurofen went from nothing to almost owning the pain relief market. And it was only in the last few years that I've begun to understand why that is. And it's simply because we know there's loads of science out there that something like 95% of all human disease either begins with or presents as inflammation. Even cancer is I believe, it's the inflammation of the enzymes in the cell which causes a mutation. So
Right.
our entire being is about inflammation or fighting inflammation. So if you're looking at it from a specific pain point, excuse the pun, but a pain point, then yes, you're right. You need to find that right point to make smaller, which is why you see that again, using the example of Nurofen, it's not just pills you pop, but they've got topical creams and gels. So if it's a muscle inflammation, then you can massage that ibuprofen direct into that body part. And it's very much the same thing with CBD. One of our biggest sellers is a CBD balm. And lots of our professional athletes and amateur athlete customers, they use it for exactly that. Pre and post exercise, they'll massage that balm into their muscles, and either protects or it helps with the recovery. But yes, anti-inflammatory. This is something that's really powerful. Whenever we speak to doctors or pharmacists who are learning what this is about, as soon as we say to them anti-inflammatory, you see the light bulb blink, and they understand it. And consumers love it.
Is there a way of introducing CBD products into the body that it might help with arthritis? Have you heard of that?
I can tell you that amongst many, my mother has been using CBD balm on her wrists, on her arthritic wrists, for 4 years.
Okay.
And she swears by it. Look, this is no CBD it's not a treatment, it's not a cure, for sure not. And as a food supplement, even we can't even make any claims close to any kind of medical thing. But as a supportive product, I guess, or as an adjunct therapy, for sure. So applying CBD to those arthritic joints daily, twice daily, can certainly bring relief. Is it going to cure arthritis? Quite clearly no. Or if it can, there's plenty more research to be done first. But certainly as a daily therapy, then it's very, very useful. Very, very useful.
And like you say, the worst that can happen is that it won't work and you'll have spent some money.
The worst that can happen is that, yes, it won't work. And to be honest, actually, I speak to my customer service guys every day, and we're always tracking what our customers are feeding back to us. And what we see is that over 60% of the time that our customers say it's not working or it doesn't work for me, it's simply they're using it wrong. And that could be not taking enough, like the dose is too small, or they're trying to treat or trying to solve like a muscle problem with a sublingual oil. Well, clearly use the right delivery mechanism for what you're trying to help. And yes, that's the biggest risk. There's very few side effects, very limited side effects, no significant risks anyway. I mean, to be honest, one of the biggest risks, I guess, and this is not uncommon, is choosing the wrong brand, choosing the wrong products, because we're coming out of this now. This has been a highly unregulated market. It's still very nascent. It's still young. We don't have any of the long-established consumer brands that have come into the market yet. So customers, they're having to navigate their way around a very confusing product with brands they don't recognize.
Sure.
So there's a lot of learning still to be done. So I guess that one of the risks is buying a bottle of CBD that actually has no CBD in there because they've been ripped off or scammed. That's also a risk. But again, the UK is beginning to lead the way in regulating this product. And March 31st, the FSA will be enforcing novel food classification. So every product on the shelf will have to have been registered. And to register is that requirement to have gone through significant toxicology and stability testing to prove that product is safe
Right.
and marketable.
So this sounds like good news for the consumer, certainly. Now, if people are listening to this and thinking, all right, so a lot of this is sort of proven anecdotally, but not by peer-reviewed real studies, but I'd still like to give it a go because frankly, you know, my arthritis is hurting and I want to try. Where can people go get more information? Have you got a website that's useful? What's the deal there?
Sure. So people can head over to our website. If you search in Google Ciitech, C-I-I-T-E-C-H, then that's our corporate website. We've got lots of information about all the science that we've been involved in and that other companies are involved in. And there's links to our products and some of the very exciting, innovative products that we've been working on. But I always recommend to people, go do the research, go to Google, go to YouTube, go to the groups, go find out the right product that you should use, and then go and seek a brand that you can trust. And that's the biggest challenge, because people should not be choosing based on the cheapest. They need to be choosing based on a company that they trust that's producing that product. I'm very biased. I think our company is very trustworthy, but I advise your listeners to do the research. But for sure, search Ciitech, C-I-I-T-E-C-H. Come and see what we've been up to and why we think that our products are the best.